My flashlight hiccuped, went dim, and in that dark, I heard my own voice ahead say my name before I even thought to call out. I stopped with my foot up, knee shaking. The corn rubbed my sleeves. The night felt close. I kept the light pointed low so I wouldn't blind myself. The beam cut a pale strip through stalks and dirt. My breath sounded loud in the tunnel of leaves. "Hello?" I said. "Hello?" my voice said from somewhere ahead, half a beat early, like I was hearing an echo that knew my lines. I squeezed the rubber of the flashlight until it buzzed and brightened. My mouth tasted like metal. I didn't run. The rows snared my clothes if I moved fast. You walk careful in corn. You keep a straight line by the rows, not by the sky. There wasn't a sky, just a lid. I kept walking. Every step I took, I heard another foot hit the dirt behind me just off my rhythm. Not a following foot, not an animal. It matched me, but late, like someone trying to sink and missing by a breath. I tried to trick it. I stopped on a step. The sound behind came in half a second later, a hollow thud, and then nothing. I held still and scanned. Leaves shifted on their own from breeze. Bugs ticked. The beam caught a scrap of white tucked into a split stalk at arm height. I pulled it free. It was paper. It was dry and clean in my damp hand. My name was on it. My handwriting. The date at the top said tomorrow. Keep straight 700 rows. Turn into the bent row. Water. Light. The letters were mine down to how I crossed my T. I had not written it. I didn't have paper. I folded it slow and put it in my pocket and told myself it was an old note and I was tired and it was dark and I was spooked. The date bothered me more than the directions. I kept straight. I counted rows with my fingers on the stalks as I passed. It sounds dumb to count that way, but it keeps your head from breaking apart. I hit 250 and checked my watch. The seconds were jumpy. It clicked to 22, then 24, then 27. I slapped it against my wrist. It beeped like I had pressed a button I hadn't. No bars, no cars, no road hum, no horizon, just a soft white halo in front of my feet and dirt. At 400, the delayed steps started to crowd me. Sometimes they were almost on time. Sometimes they were a full second late. It didn't matter if I sped up. The gap stayed. I put my palm on a stalk to steady myself and hissed. There was a cut along the heel of my hand. Fresh. Thin. It stung sharp like a paper cut, but deeper. Blood slicked a little. I looked around for something that could have sliced me. Nothing. Leaves and husks. I had gloves in my pack, but I didn't put them on. It felt stupid to fuss over it. I kept going. At 700, I lifted the light, and the row to my right was not straight. It kinked. It leaned. Like something had pressed a wide turn into it. The bent row. I almost laughed. I think a small sound came out instead. I turned into it because the note said water, and I told myself I was obeying my own directions. So it wasn't crazy. My foot hit something metal once, twice, a buried pipe. Then I saw the line of an irrigation pivot ahead, that big wheel shape across the rows, dark against darker. I tried 3 times to get out before the shed. I followed the pivot line. I followed the map on my phone. Nothing lined up. The map said a road should be 50 meters east. I walked 100. There was corn. I cut a mark into a stalk with my knife to see if I circled. 10 minutes later, I found a stalk cut the same way before I'd come back around. The cut looked fresher than mine. The knife was damp in my pocket, like I had just used it. The watch hopped from 53 to 00 to 03 like it couldn't decide what second it wanted. I climbed the pivot to get a look. The metal was wet and cold. My boot slipped and I felt a bite in my palm, in the same place as the cut I had noticed before. The pain was the same shape. I sat on the top bar and lifted the light over my head. It showed me plants and a dull glow off green rows that ran straight until they didn't. I looked for lights. I saw one tiny square of yellow to the south, a window or a sodium lamp. I had no horizon to gauge it. It looked both close and far. I climbed back down slow, went south. The steps behind me matched me, late, patient. My name kept bumping out ahead of me like I was going to say it, and my voice beat me to it. Daniel, I heard. Then I said, "Who's there?" And my voice on my left said it the same with my same stress like a line reading I hadn't given yet. I stopped saying anything after a while. It didn't make a difference. It said the thing I would have said anyway, and then I would feel my mouth form the same words and I would hate that I had to complete it, like a cough. The glow turned into a door with a light over it. A block shed, cinder blocks, and a tin roof. A pump house. A big white tank next to it hummed low. The door wasn't locked. I went in. The light inside was harsh and made my eyes water. There was a metal sink with a spigot and a drain, an orange workbench, a radio on a shelf with a wire antenna, a cot with a gray blanket rolled up tight like nobody had slept on it in a long time. The floor had grit. My knees almost buckled when my brain realized there was a room and a light and a door I could shut. I turned the faucet. Water came out clear. It was cold and tasted like iron and mud. I let it run and washed the cut on my palm and watched it weep a thin line that didn't close right away. I bandaged it with tape from a kit someone had left on the bench. The tape had that dusty feel. My fingers shook hard enough that I had to sit on the cot and breathe slow like I was getting over being sick. The radio had channels. I don't know radio code. I pressed the button and said, "Hello." The speaker clicked and I heard, "Hello," in my voice before I was done pushing the button. I froze. I let go and pressed it again and said, "Can anyone hear me? Can anyone hear me?" Came back fast. My vowels exact. It wasn't a recording. It was like I was on a fraction of a second delay, but backward. I kept trying. "I'm in a shed. I need help." "I'm in a shed. I need help," the voice said, like it was telling me what I was going to say. Something else bled into it. A breath. A little rasp on the back end. Older. Tired. "What's happening?" I asked. The speaker popped to life with my question first, then my own voice in my own throat. I put the radio down gentle like it would break if I said it wrong. I sat there listening to the hum of the tank and the buzz of the light. I counted my breaths and told myself I would wait for dawn. I would follow the pivot. I would hit a service road. Someone would come by. I had water. I had light. This was a stupid night story. I would have a funny thing to tell about hearing myself on a radio and being too tired. I drank more water. I ate a protein bar from my pack even though food felt like cardboard. I checked my legs. There was a bruise rising on my shin, small at first, yellow around the edges with a purple center, in the shape of a rung. I didn't remember hitting it. I pressed it. It hurt. I closed the door and slid the bolt and lay on the cot with the flashlight on my chest and the radio next to my ear. The steps didn't come up to the shed. They stopped, and then they stepped again a beat later. Careful, like whoever was attached to them was matching me on the other side of the walls. I pressed the radio button once more and said, "Stay away. Stay away." The radio answered me a split second early, like it was me warning myself before I had decided to do it. I woke up before dawn because the pump kicked and the pressure pipe rattled. My watch said 4 to 88, then 5:01. My mouth was dry. My back hurt. There was a new thin cut on my forearm I didn't remember getting, like the edge of a corn leaf had sawed into me. I rolled my sleeves down and taped it. I made a plan out loud and listened to my own voice say it to me in the wrong order. I told myself I was safe inside the plan. I opened the door at first light. The field was gray and flat. Dew hung on everything. The bent row was still bent. The straight rows were straight. I stood there and waited for the voice or the step, like you wait for pain you know is going to hit. Daniel came from the left. Mine, older. Then he stepped out of the corn like he had just been leaning there the whole time. He was me in the simple ways that make you feel sick. The same pack, the same mud on the toe of the right boot, the same jacket with that ripped cuff. He looked a little thinner. His hair had more gray at the temple. He had a scar on the bridge of his nose, a smooth white line like it had been split and healed. I reached up and touched my nose without meaning to. It was whole. He lifted his hand slow like you do when you don't want to scare a stray dog. His palm had the same cut as mine, but older, a ridge in the same place. His voice when he spoke sounded like mine after a long flu, lower, rougher. "Don't go east," he said. He said it in my tone, the way I would say it if I had stayed up all night and smoked a pack. "It's worse." I stared at him. My head felt hot. "What is this?" I asked. "What is this?" he said before me. Then my own mouth did it, and I hated the feel of it. He winced, like hearing it hurt him too. He glanced at my shoulder, at the exact place my strap chafed. He tapped his own nose with 2 fingers like he was counting himself. He stepped to the side to get out of my line to the door. He kept his hands open. The cut on his forearm matched the one I taped, but older, sealed, a brown edge around it. He had a split on his shin like the bruise I woke with, but broken open, scabbed. He moved like it hurt to put weight on that leg. He looked at my watch. His wrist had a watch too. It was the same model. Its face ticked past 12, and then hung for a beat and then skipped. "Don't go east," he said again. "You'll think you see a road." "Where am I?" I said. He flinched when the words came out of my radio instead of my mouth, half a second early, then me. "Don't ask it like that," he said. He stepped away from the shed, and the corn closed behind him, a little like breath closing a curtain. Not on its own, just the stalks leaning. You have to follow the pivot to the drainage. Go slow. If you run, you cut your shin on the low brace, and then you panic, and then you take the bent row, and then you'll be in here again. Don't go east. I took a step back into the shed and found the bolt with my hand. "I don't want to play a game with you," I said. My throat hurt. My tongue felt thick. The radio said it first for me, and then I did. "I don't want to be you." He laughed once with no humor in it, just air. "Yes," he said. "Me neither." "You leave then," I said. I don't know why I said it. The words weren't smart. I wanted him to go away so the steps would be mine again, even if they were wrong. I wanted to split us back into one person. "It doesn't work like," he started. Then he looked over my shoulder past me at something in the shed and closed his mouth. His lips thinned like he was counting. He touched his nose again. It annoyed me how much I recognized the habit. I should have listened to him. I didn't. I stepped past him, hard, shoulder brushing the sleeves that felt like my own. He twisted to give me space, polite. He reached out like he was going to grab my pack strap and then pulled his hand back like it burned him to touch it. "What if I go west?" I said. "West is a road that isn't," he said, and he said it with a soft pity voice I hate in myself. "Don't." I didn't let him finish. I ran. The rows hit my shoulders and ribs and slapped my cheeks. The delayed step came with me, not behind anymore. It slid under me, just off, a half measure out, the thud-thud delay lining up with my breath so that I heard myself twice like a bad track. I ran anyway. My plan and the pump and the safe light fell behind like a lid closing. The field dipped and rose in ways you don't see until you're in it. The bent rows showed turns I had not decided to take yet, broad curves pressed into growing things. I ignored them and pushed through straight lines. My watch twitched and stuttered. It jumped from 6:12 to 6:16 in one move. I hit a low brace and cracked my shin open on it in the exact place the bruise had bloomed and went down on both knees and set a string of small words into the dirt. The pain was a clean bar all the way up my leg. I looked back and saw a smear of my blood on the metal, bright and wet. I stood and limped. My palms split open along the bandage. It was the same cut, and it reopened in the same way like it had been waiting. I aimed for a line of trees I thought meant a windbreak. Past that, usually, is a road. I pushed through to it. It was a ditch with water at the bottom. A trickle. Mosquitoes lifted off like dust. I slid down, crossed, clawed up the other side. At the top, the field kept going, but the rows were different, shorter, and there was a fence line maybe 50 yards ahead. A wire fence with old posts. Past it, darker ground. Road. The delayed steps were tight now, nested under mine, half a heartbeat, like both of us were trying to be first and both failing. My voice called my name from ahead and from my right. It said it wrong, my mother's way, and then I said it the way I say it without meaning to, and then I shut my jaw hard enough to make my teeth throb. I reached the fence and put my hand on the top wire, and it sang low like a string. It wasn't electric. It was just old. I swung my leg through and caught my pants and ripped them, and the rip matched the rip on the other pair I had at home, the one I had said I would fix and never did. It made me want to cry. I didn't. I dropped onto gravel. It was a farm lane or a service road, 2 lines of packed stone with grass in the middle. It went left and right and into a shimmer. No cars. No noise. The corn crowded it on both sides. I turned right because right felt like town. A mailbox stood on a post 50 yards down, black, with a number I didn't know. My heart banged so loud it hid the steps for a second. I touched the box like it was a person and opened it with my bandaged hand. Inside was dry. There was a note. My handwriting. The date said tomorrow. It said, "Keep going. Don't stop running. Don't look back. You will hate the face. You won't be able not to." I left it and kept moving. I walked because running made my shin wet with blood and my lungs pinch. The gravel crunched. My mouth said, "Almost there," and the little radio in my pack, which I had not turned off, crackled and finished the sentence for me a split breath ahead. "Almost there." I didn't look back. The lane bent. I could see a road ahead now. Pavement. A cross street with a stop sign and a strip of grass and a longer line beyond with a yellow center. I could see a tree with a nailed sign. I could see a light on a pole. It buzzed. I could hear electricity. It buzzed in that way that feels like a friend. I stepped off gravel onto asphalt. The surface was warm, though the air was cold. My shin throbbed. My hand pulsed. I stood there and I could have fallen down, but I didn't. I lifted my eyes and looked left and right and saw nothing coming. No cars. No houses. No houses yet, but road. That's all I wanted. I laughed once and the sound of it embarrassed me, high and weak. The delay foot followed me onto the pavement, half a second behind, and for the first time it made a different sound. It had a hollow under it like it needed my heel to find its own. It came right on the tail of my last step and then waited. I waited with it. We stood there together on that blank black, and my watch ticked to 7 o'clock and then blinked 7:02 without the minute in between. The radio in my pack breathed static. I swallowed. "I made it," I said, "because you say things like that out loud to make them true." "I made it," the radio said, my voice weaker by a shade, finishing for me before the words got to my mouth. Then the pole light hummed, steady as a toothache, and I heard my other foot come down a half-second late on the same spot I was standing, as if I had taken a step I hadn't yet. Yappin'. Don't just sit there. Subscribe. Hit like. That's how you show me you're still out there. Do it now, before the next story starts without you. See you in the next one.